Stanford University.
Okay, guys. Well, my name is Andy Hybers, and I'm from Bump Technologies, and I'm actually the co-founder of the company. And I'm here with Jake Kerr, who's our lead iPhone developer, and we're going to give a little talk today about Bump. The talk will really have two parts. One is about the sort of trajectory of Bump from sort of a very early application to where it is today, and the next part is talking about the Bump API, which lets you really use the core Bump technology in your own iPhone apps. So I'll get started with sort of a step back, and that is that phones are really becoming increasingly important as a computing platform, and they're becoming important for everyday people. And kind of the everyday people aspect is very important because on the iPhone, even more so than a PC, usability is very important. The screen size is very small. But along with this increasing kind of amount of stuff we have on our iPhone, there's a problem getting the stuff into and out of the iPhone. And there's another problem which Bumps addresses, which is if we have two phones together, they're so smart, they've got all this capability, but something very simple, just connecting the two phones, is actually quite difficult. You can type in email addresses and codes to try to connect, but none of the methods are that smooth. Even Bluetooth, which is a device-to-device connection standard, has proven to be quite challenging even on the same device. So that's really where Bump comes in. And what Bump lets you do is connect two devices together very easily by bumping the two phones together gently. And then a connection is established between the phones, and various things can be accomplished through our own native Bump app and now through the Bump API. So I'll just give a brief overview about the Bump technology. First thing happens is two phones bump together, and then various information is sent from the phones to the servers to determine if there's a match or not. We obviously have the accelerometer data from the Apple accelerometer. The accelerometer runs at about 100 hertz sample rate, and it gives you information up to around 2 Gs. I'll go back a minute. The other information we have is location information. So information reported from core location, information about the network. If there's a match, then we can do something based on the match. And this can be transmit data between the phones. We can also initiate different types of actions. Things we've done so far are compare people's social networks, friend each other on Facebook. We're looking into things like money transfers or comparing other items in the cloud. Really anything you want. So here I am in fall 2008. This is really where I got started working with the iPhone development kit. And at that point, the App Store was only open for about 4 months. I think they started in July, and things were very immature. So kind of the hot apps at that time were like wide keyboard apps, like let you use a wide keyboard instead of the regular sort of portrait keyboard. And now we're a year later, and you can say that in some ways the iPhone ecosystem has matured, but I think we're really still in the very early days. I mean, if you look back, I got a PhD at Stanford in 1998, and if you look back 10 years ago, we were just at the beginning or at the main wave of the internet revolution, and everything was going at internet time, and people thought, oh, everything's going to be all figured out in a few years, and we're going to be all done. And here we are 10 years later, and by no means is the internet kind of played out. And I think mobile as well, just the number of devices and the kind of richer and more interesting things you can do with devices, and connecting devices not just with each other, but with connecting them with things around you in the environment. I mean, we're just really at the very, very beginning stages. So I'll step back and just talk about at that time the development of Bump. So we just kind of it was a project between me and two students at the University of Chicago Business School, and we just kind of got going, looking at what we wanted to do. One of them got the idea for Bump because he just started business school and they were exchanging business cards all the time, and they were like, wow, either they had business cards or they didn't, or they're typing the information, but it was getting very tedious. And he was like, well, gee, there must be some way to do this on the iPhone. Everybody's got iPhones. So one of my partners in the project started mapping out all these different kind of interaction patterns, and we finally came up with a set of screens that we thought would be a good flow. And we released the app on the App Store, or we submitted rather, on February 13th. So, and it took 6 weeks for approval. And the part that gave us difficulty is visible on this slide. And if you look right there at the end of the arrow, in our app, right on the splash screen, we have a picture of something that basically looks exactly like an iPhone. And Apple, as many of you know, doesn't like to have graphics that are directly iPhone or Apple-owned graphics in their apps. So that's sort of a way they want you to show a more generic phone. If you look at the app today, or you look at the icon up here, it is a lot more generic looking. And so after that, there was something like we didn't have our mail set up right, so the first mail got lost, and then finally we got the thing approved. So I'll go next to, we did our own app design. One important thing to look at when you're going to go on the app is check out the competition. So, and what can you offer that the competition doesn't have? And here were some of the other kind of contact exchange applications. That was our only function initially, was contact exchange that were available in the App Store at the time. They were all pretty good. I mean, in this one in particular in the middle here has pretty nice graphics. They all had limitations that made them more difficult to use than Bump, or simply less fun. So, obviously charging $1 in a kind of network type application is probably a bad idea. If you there were ones that typed in codes, it's less convenient. Ones that let you look at people in location, this is pretty good. But what really set Bump apart was that it was simple and that it was fun. It was a fun, intuitive interaction. Now the App Store has become, because there are kind of 20 apps for any different category, unless you can think of something really totally crazy and unique. You have to kind of figure out how to take advantage of this amazing channel that the App Store is. So the App Store, it is just a phenomenal channel. You submit an app, and in a week you can have user distribution, or in an hour, in a few hours, you can have a way to acquire users, a way to give them their software. You don't need to have a server. A way to collect payments. I mean, you know all this, and you probably also know that as of January 2010, there are about 130,000 apps on the store. Now, one thing that most people don't know, or at least I haven't seen this around, is that over 50% of these apps have 0 reviews. So, and what does that mean if you have 0 reviews? That probably means you have approximately 0 users. So a lot of people, they look on the App Store and they think, wow, we can get, I want to be a blockbuster hit in the top 50, but all you have to do is to have 1 review. If you have 1 person review your application, then you're already in the top half of the App Store. So you've already made it to the top half. And I thought this was pretty interesting. We were doing some basic metrics. We're looking at sharing apps on the phone, so we're kind of looking at the App Store as a whole. And here, this is a graph I made up, which shows all 130,000 applications. They're labeled 1 to 30,000 down here. And the ranking is based on the number of reviews they have. So if you look all the way on the right-hand side, out at 130,000, we're down here. Or this is 50,000 have 1. Okay, that's kind of where the 1 review is. Now, if we want to look at, say, how many apps have at least 10 reviews, and that's going to be around 20,000. So if you have 10 reviews of your app, you're already in the top 1/6. And if you can manage to get 100 reviews, you're in the top 2,000 apps. So you want to kind of climb the ladder, and you don't need a lot of promotion. There are a lot of ways you can do things, promoting things with blogs and other methods that will let you slowly build up some steam. And here, I'm just going to show the top apps. This is like 1,000 reviews or above. So if you have 1,000 reviews, you're definitely doing pretty well. And there's a lot of the ones you've heard. Facebook is the #1 probably downloaded and reviewed app in the App Store. No surprise there. And it goes on. There's a lot of popular games, like these little circles I put on are all the tap-tap revenge games. Those are super popular. Bump is up here. I don't know if we're quite in the top 20 or not, but we're sort of around there. Flashlight, this one is surprisingly consistently popular. I don't know what there is to review on it, but people do review that. The Google apps, Urban Spoon, and I could have put a lot of labels on, but I kind of got tired after about 10 or so. So your goal is to just get a few users, okay? So we got going, and then we thought, how do we get a few users? And we decided, okay, we'll look around at all the kind of media outlets and newspapers. So my co-founder, David Lieb, he was in Chicago. Both the other two people starting the company were in Chicago. So he talked to Eric Benderoff at the Chicago Tribune. Eric Benderoff wrote a nice little article about Bump. And that got us a few thousand users, which we thought was just amazing. And so we had this great article in the Chicago Tribune. The server was starting to go. It was really, really great. So what did we do then? We asked Eric Benderoff, what should we do next? Like, how else can we promote this? And he says, you guys should talk to David Pogue. Right? Of course, David Pogue is a really well-known guy at the New York Times, and he gets a zillion emails. But we probably sent, I didn't do it, but we probably sent an email saying, hey, Eric Benderoff likes this, have a look at it. So, if he can, this is the idea that one thing builds onto the next. If you say, oh, we have this app and so likes it, then you can maybe get to the next level up. So then David Pogue didn't write about it, but he tweeted about it. And David Pogue has a lot of followers, over 1 million followers on Twitter. I mean, he's not quite as big a celebrity as the top 10, but he's way up there. So he wrote about it on Twitter. And then we got, after that, I think we wrote a little email to this show Tech Now, which is a Bay Area tech show, saying, hey, David Pogue tweeted about us and Eric Benderoff wrote an article about us. So, and we got on Tech Now. And Tech Now, it's sort of a show that's basically just Bay Area, shown in the Bay Area. But you can see on the little logo here, it is produced at an NBC affiliate station. So that weekend, we had them come over on Thursday. That weekend, slow news weekend on NBC, and we got maybe about 10 big city NBC stations picked us up as kind of the human interest story of the weekend. So, for 4 minutes in New York City and lots of other places, they had a little spiel about Bump. So that really got things rolling, and that was a major bump. I mean, having a few minutes on NBC in 10 major markets is a pretty good commercial. And so then we were humming along, and at that point, 1 out of every 300 apps on the App Store downloaded was Bump, and so that was just before the billionth app was downloaded. And so we had a 0.3% chance of being the billionth app, and we were the billionth app. So at that point, I had written all of the client code and all of the server code, and I got a call at 5:30 in the morning, and it was my co-founder David Lieb called me up, and he said we're the billionth app, and he was all excited, and I was like, I was sort of not that excited, and because I thought, wow, I wrote the server. It's written in Python. Not really sure how this thing is going to scale. This could be a big problem, right? So essentially, the next day or two was spent learning how to run a server a lot better than I had been before. I kind of have a science computing background, but not a loaded server background. So I had a lot of education very quickly, and we survived with no downtime. All kinds of stuff came out of the billionth application, downloaded. At that point, I think we got on Apple's radar. Apple has a marketing team. They're looking for interesting apps. Then we got on an Apple commercial. So that was pretty nice. So at this point, I was programming in my pajamas with my kid on the desk. And then, not too long later, there was a commercial on the TV, like during 60 Minutes, with that app that I programmed, like in my pajamas. So I was like, huh, it's pretty good. And about this time, a person from my previous company, which was a hardware company, called me up and he was like, wow, software really moves along quickly. And I'm like, yeah, software is pretty nice. So easy distribution. You don't have to make anything. MC Hammer picked us up. He tweets about us pretty regularly. We got on the CNBC show, Planet of the Apps. We just got a nice Sprint stuff in the Wall Street Journal on their Android app. We've branched out to Android. So it's kind of, you can basically see this snowball effect. And this is my, the CEO's dream now is to get on the Colbert Show, but that might take a little while. Apparently there's this Colbert bump where it's actually a bump of popularity when people go on the Colbert Show. So somehow he wants to tie the bump into the Colbert bump, and it's going to be great, but we're not quite there yet. So 10 million downloads this month. So here, one thing we did in the very beginning was we made just a video. YouTube, super easy. You just put a video up there. You link for your website. If you want people to write about you, a blogger or something, it's nice to have a promo video. So then they can understand what's going on very quickly, especially iPhone apps, very visual apps. If you have kind of a run-through, that's pretty useful. So this was our...
Meet Dave. Dave was out with some friends one night and met a girl named Christine. They hit it off, and Dave asked for Christine's number. Instead of making him type her contact information into his phone, they both opened the Bump app. Christine selected the information she wanted to share, and with a simple bump of the hands, they were able to exchange contact information securely and error-free in just a matter of seconds.
So that was a $40 video. The $40 apparently was spent on the black felt behind the iPhones and some videotape. And the voiceover was from one of our early users, just did the voiceover and sent it to us for free. Then this is the next step up.
What's nice about the iPhone, if you want to share contact info with a bump, there's an app for that.
Wenn ihr miteinander Kontaktinfos austauschen wollt, gibt es eine App dafür.
Si vous voulez partager vos coordonnées, il y a une application pour ça.
お互いの連絡先をこんな風に交換できる。そんなアプリケーションがあります。
Because there's an app for just about anything, only on the iPhone.
That made us internationalize, which is not crazy difficult, but we have like 150 strings, so it was challenging. Especially when you change one and then you have to go back to all your translators and get it done over again. But that's another thing. You could be a big player in a smaller market like Japan or France or Germany by translating into that native language or having somebody on your team who knows that native language. And if you're a Japanese speaker, it's a lot more fun to have a Japanese language app than the English version. So that's a great way to kind of get some traction. Another thing, generally we're always looking at our feedback. There's a really nice web system called User Voice that lets you just kind of add a module on your website to get some feedback from your users. This is just an example of a snapshot of what it was yesterday. People want to add music sharing, add app sharing, send ringtones, bump one of our numbers, bump calendar appointments. So, at a certain point, you don't even need to. You can just not that the users always know what they want, but if it's super crazy. But for kind of some more standard things, you can you can get a lot of great ideas from your users. And then there's all the feedback, of course, on the App Store. And some of it is good, and like this one, Infinite Bliss says it's magic. Awesome. Just turned on there's a tiny elf living in each iPhone. Most amazing app. I met my wife running iPhone. Now, I think this was a joke. I don't think this was really true, using Bump. So those are all the good reviews. I just got some good reviews. These are all like February, last week or something like that. Yesterday, sometimes we get some people that are not that happy with Bump. So yesterday we got an email in. We just released an update on Wednesday. Here's the email we got from Richard. Your update sucks. So 4:29 p.m., blah, blah, blah. What's going on over at your company? I get locked into someone's identity, and the only way to get out is to delete your app and then reinstall it. Get with it, Richard. So we're like, what's going on? Well, it turns out we have a little selector in the beginning to select your name. And if you select the wrong name, then you're stuck with the wrong name. And you have to go to settings to change the name. Now, a lot of people aren't going to go to settings because it's not immediately obvious. And that's the usability issues are always very challenging. So that was received at 4:29. At 4:39, David Lee writes him back, I'd be happy to help you out. You can call me at 650-275-BUMP. So 1 minute later, and then we explained to them how it worked, and then we got this following email. Your update does not suck. Sorry for the rant. So anyway, but that's you get, and then the next time you're designing settings, you're designing flow, you're thinking about well, what do people think this means? What if they make a mistake? How are they going to correct that? What's going to happen? So. And people are much more likely to write a bad review than they are to write a good review. So because it's an outlet for them. We get a lot of other types of fan things. There were several Halloween costumes of people running the Bump app on their iPhone. Here's two different flavors of that. There are YouTube videos about Bump now. Like this is one of my favorites.
What we doing tonight? I said the usual, so we fit it up. And VIP, so shawty, what's up? And then this fine man came and whispered in my ear that I couldn't quite hear. You got an iPhone, well I got one too. Turn your bump on and let me bump, let me bump. You got an iPhone, well I got one too. Turn your bump on and let me bump, let me bump. You got an iPhone, I got one too. Turn your bump on and let me.
I think we have a page on the website which has those. So we first got started on Bump. It's also kind of on a topic of understanding your users. We first got started on Bump, and we thought it was kind of a business card replacement thing. And it turned out that it's much more of a social interaction app, and I think that's because it's a little kookier. It's a little more fun. It's less serious, and business users already have business cards which they use, and there's a whole sort of social protocol involved with that. And whereas you go to a bar or someplace and there is no protocol. I mean, you're not going to hand business cards out in sort of social settings. So we noticed peak traffic on weekends, and this is kind of typical usage that we're getting almost double traffic on the weekends. We've also seen seasonal situation where usage like peaked at Thanksgiving, and then we thought, oh, gee, maybe something will happen at the holiday season. And sure enough, the last 2 weeks of the year was just through the top, and now we're back, somewhere in between before and after the holiday season. So we started with the popularity of the Bump app. We started going more into like, well, how can we kind of expand this to kind of make this a little bit bigger platform or make it more interesting. And obviously going to multiple OSs, in particular Android, has become very important. And we have an Android app and they're interoperable. But we're also working on a complete platform for connecting devices. And once you're connected, have the kind of infrastructure you need to easily communicate. So whether that's a fast channel or whether that's one app connected to another and they both speak the same language, send a photo, receive a photo. It's sort of like Bluetooth in some ways is this, and we're hoping to be a little bit more dynamic and working and kind of useful ecosystem. And so this summer we got some help from Y Combinator, which is mostly web app, but all kinds of things, CS incubator. And then we just raised some venture capital down the street from Sequoia. So this is our webpage right now. We have the iPhone and the Android version, and then we have this kind of developer tab on the right where we encourage people to check out our API and use that to incorporate into their applications. So the API, which Jake will give some code samples for in a second and run through a sample app, essentially is a call you can make. You instantiate a single object and tell it to connect, and then it'll pop up this UI view or view controller, and it will proceed to kind of run the core bump technology, and you'll bump another app, and that's also running the API, or actually the bump app, kind of as things move forward, and hit connect, and then you'll be off and running. So the demo, a demo we have is to use a bump to start a game with Connect 4. So you basically initiate the game with the other handset, which it opens up a low latency channel between the two handsets, and then over that channel you can send moves, Connect 4 moves, and play out your Connect 4 game. So there's all kinds of things we're hoping people will do with this, from gaming to virtual goods to various social network connections or activities on social networks, sending various things, comparing various things. Could be movie libraries or music libraries. And basically what we're doing with this first phase is we're initializing the connection quickly, and then we're giving you a fast pipe that you can use with a very small number of calls. So it's about 10 lines of code, and the next part of the talk, Jake Kerr will go over the API as soon as we get that hooked up. Oh, one more plug. Oh, well, they can just be in this room, but we are having internships this summer, so anybody who's interested in working at Bump for the summer, we would love to hear from you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Jake Kerr. I'm an engineer at Bump. I'm going to be giving you guys just a quick demo of the Bump API, and hopefully showing you guys how easy it is to just integrate it into your own apps and get that secure channel of communication going between your apps that Andy mentioned, with absolutely no server code and no network code whatsoever. So to kind of demonstrate the Bump app, I've got a little sort of skeleton here that's called My Chat. And so My Chat is, at this point in time, we don't have any of the Bump code in it yet. So this guy is just basically a single user chat program, which obviously isn't very useful. But just to give you an idea of what we're going to start with and where we're going to be going with this. So I'm going to enter my name in here, hit chat, and so it says Jake has joined the room and nobody has joined the room. And I can just have a nice conversation with myself, which isn't very fun. So let's get the Bump API integrated in here, and I'll walk you guys through it. Actually, before that, let me walk you through the My Chat sort of stubbed out example so we know where we're trying to take this guy. So the first thing you saw pop up there was just a root view, and that guy basically just has a name field. And when you click chat, we get a callback. I mean, we have an interface builder file here, which is connected. The button is connected to this IB action. And so that action just calls this chat button press method. And this is going to tell the app delegate to start a chat with the name of whatever was in that text field. And the chat app delegate is really simple. All he's going to do when you ask him to start a name chat is he's going to basically alloc and init a chat view controller. And he's going to set he's going to tell the chat view controller to set its name to my name. And so chat view controller is the real focus of this app, and this is where all the magic happens. So in the chat view controller.m, we don't have a lot in here yet, but we kind of know where we want to take it and where we're going to need to put Bump in. So sort of the flow of this app, the first thing that happens is you get that call to connect with my name. And so right here is where we want to put the Bump code in there to tell Bump to go ahead and connect. And then right now I'm sort of just short-circuiting the whole process and going directly to, yes, it was a successful connection with nobody. And that's why you saw that nobody joined the room a second ago. So on a successful connect, we just post a local chat message, which I'm basically just have a little bit of code here to append messages into that chat window. And so we post a local chat message saying that each user joined the room. And we also have this send button press stubbed out, but of course, we don't have bump yet. So send button pressed also is just going to post a local chat message with your message. So that's really all there is to it. We want to add the bump implementation in here, and I'm not going to force you guys to sit through me actually writing any code. So I'm going to come here and just check out a pre-baked version. Alrighty, so now we've gone and downloaded the bump API, and we've just added a few things to our project. We have this bump.h that we've dragged in. This describes all the interfaces to the bump API. We have a bump resources folder that just has some various images and things that support the bump API UI and some of the nib files that are required. And we've also dragged in libbump.a, which is a static library that you'll be linking against to use the bump API. Now, okay. So before we start walking through the code, I'm just going to build one more time and kind of show you guys what's changed from the user's point of view. So here I'll set my name to Jake and click chat, and now when that chat view controller pops up, we're immediately going to ask it to connect to bump. And the bump API will do all the work of building this view for you and adding it to your window. And you also notice there's a bump button here. This is only visible while you're debugging in the simulator so that you can simulate a bump. Yep. Okay. So before we go any further, I'm going to go back to the code and sort of show you what has changed in the chat view controller. So let's go to the top here. So now on viewDidLoad, and this is just called by the API when a view controller is shown on the screen or when it's first instantiated. So on viewDidLoad, we're going to do some just basic view setup, but then the interesting piece here is we are alloc and initting a bump object and setting the delegate to self. And so now as the bump API goes through its process of setting up your connection and things like that, you'll get callbacks to this object here via the bump's delegate. So let's sort of jump into bump.h again and just take a quick look at the bump delegate. So there's a couple callbacks for did connect. So this is when two users have bumped their phones together. They've got a successful connection. Once you get that callback, you know that you have an open connection and you can start sending data back and forth. So to send that data, you would call this guy here bump data. Oh, sorry. More like, here you go. So to send data, you would call this send on the bump object, and you just pass in an NSData object. And that NSData object can be anything you like. You can serialize an NS dictionary, you could serialize a string, put it in that NSData object and hit send. And on the other side, you'll expect the other phone to get a callback to its bump data received method, and the same exact chunk will be passed in. So that's sort of, those are the most important pieces of the bump API. Of course, we have other things to help you, display meaningful errors to your users. So if there's a disconnect, we'll tell you about it, and we have a few different reasons why a disconnect might happen, like the other user quit, or you lost the network, or etc. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Do the bump delegate methods only support sharing information between two people?
Yes, at this point they do. Yeah, we've.
Repeat the question.
Oh, sure. So the question was, do the bump delegate methods only support interactions between two handsets? And the answer is yes. At this point, that's all we're supporting. But we've thought about possibly doing daisy chain bumps, so you can maybe bump 2 or 3 people and have sort of like a connection between multiple people. So that's definitely something we're thinking about, but we haven't quite implemented anything like that yet. Okay, so back to chat view controller. So we've alloc initted a bump object, we've set our delegate to self, and so now when this view is loaded and connect with my name is called, we're going to do some quick configuration on the bump object. We're just setting a few fields that tell the bump server some useful information, like our API key. This is something that you receive from bump when you sign up as an API developer. We have this config action message. So this is just a prompt, sort of a call to action for your user. When they see the bump API, it'll have this listed in there. So for this particular app, our call to action is bump with another MyChat user to start a conversation. So then we're going to config the username on the bump object to my name, which is whatever the user typed, and call bump connect. So as soon as we call bump connect, that's when you see that API pop up, and it prompts the user with the prompt that you gave it. So assuming all went well with the bump, both users accepted, and they're connected, you'll get a callback to your bump delegate method that says bump did connect. And from there, I'm just directly calling this connected successfully. I can show you down here, bump did connect. I pull out the my name from the bump object that we already set. I also pull out the other name, because now that we have a successful connection, I know that the other name is set on that bump object. And then I call that method above, connected successfully, with my name and other name. So now where it said Jake joined and nobody joined, it will say Jake joined and whatever the other user's name was joined. So back up here to connected successfully, we're going to post those two messages that the users have joined. And now on every send button press, we're actually going to take the text from that text field that goes here into this NS string. We're going to post that message locally so you can see what you said. And then we're going to create an NS data object from that message, just doing data using encoding with the UTF-8 string encoding. So now we have an NS data object, which is what the bump send method wants. And we just call bump send with that message chunk. Now you can expect the other user to receive that same NS data object through their bump data received method callback. And that is pretty much all there is to sending data back and forth. So I'll come down here to bump data received so you can also see that. So now here's bump data received, where the user will receive a chunk that the other user sent. And again, this is an NS data object, so we want to create a string from it. So we're going to, this is basically deserializing what we serialized earlier using the same encoding. So now we have the incoming message in an NS string, which is convenient for posting to our message window. So again, we're going to post a local chat message, which just pasted it into that window, using this format here where we have the other user's name and what they said, the incoming message. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So I'm going to load it up in my simulator here, and Andy's going to help me by sort of simulating a bump with me. Okay, let's do this on 3. Ready? Oh, I got to chat first and then I'll hit bump. Just a second here. All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here we go. Connect with Ortiz. I'll accept. Looks like we're connected. Thanks, Ortiz. Okay. So, yep, that's the bump API. Any questions? Sure.
Yeah, I have a question. So, is there any other way to test in the simulator since you can't actually, like, let's say someone else doesn't have the app on their phone. How can I test it in the simulator? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. So the question was, how can one test the bump API using only the simulator? Is that correct? Yeah, we actually don't have a real easy way to do that. You pretty much 2 devices are sort of required. So, I mean, if you have 2 Macs, you can have Xcode on both, install to both, and test from 2 simulators that are on the same Wi-Fi network. You could also maybe run another simulator in a virtual machine if you're so inclined, but that might be a little overboard. Yeah, there's not really an easy way to do it, unfortunately. Any other questions? All right. Great. Thanks a lot.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.